Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the basics of synthesizers. In this part, contrary to what I said in my last video, I'm going to cover only LFOs because there's quite a lot you can do with them. So let's have a look at the first of our synthesizers. This is the ES2. And the LFOs on the ES2 are located down here. It has two LFOs. It has one that you can sync to your master tempo, which is down here. And it's got one that you can control by sort of hertz and everything. Although you can do that with this one as well. First of all, what you have to, when using an LFO, you've got to decide what you want to modulate. In these examples, I'm going to modulate the pitch or the cutoff. For the ES2, I'm going to decide to modulate the pitch of oscillator 1. To do this, you need to go to your routing section, decide what you want to modulate. I've said we're going to modulate the pitch, so you click on here. Pitch 1 is pitch of oscillator 1. The source is what you want to modulate it with. We're going to modulate it with LFO 2 because we're going to sync it to the master tempo. Right, when I press this key now, you won't really hear anything but the saw wave. Now what happens is, as I move this up, this arrow here basically dictates the highest pitch that the LFO will reach before returning to its zero state and then returning back up and down, oscillating as an LFO does. So as I move this up, the pitch that it will get to will get higher and higher. You can also change the speed at which this happens by obviously changing oscillator 2. So if I stick this in the middle and mess around with the speed, you get the point. So that's how to assign an LFO to modulate something. You can modulate loads of different things. Pitch, the waves, the cutoff of the filter, resonance, the amp, so the volume, and so on, and also envelopes and stuff. Also probably worth mentioning is that you can have different LFO wave types, as I'll now demonstrate, and we were just using this wave type here. You can use a ramp. You can use another ramp type which goes in the opposite direction. You can use a square. You can use this one. This is more of a random wave. And then there's a sine wave. Or that's more random, that's not actually a sine wave. But yeah, you get the point. You can use different waveforms for your LFO to modulate whatever you want to modulate. So if we go and look for our LFOs on our other synthesizers. On the ES1, we have our LFO down here. These are the different parameters we can modulate. Let's say we want to modulate pitch. We do that with this. We can also modulate cutoff, which will give us the good old dubstep wobble sound. You can also modulate other stuff such as resonance and amp volume. What else we got? We've got resonance. Right, let's see what else we've got on our the soft synths. On massive, we have our LFOs down here. So let's modulate the pitch of this oscillator here. So we set LFO 5 to modulate the pitch by 12 semitones. So let's create a really simple riser. For this, I generally tend to use a saw or ramp. Now, if the beginning setting for LFO 5 or just any of the LFOs in massive, it won't be synced to your master tempo, so it'll look like this, and you'll get something that sounds like this. And you can just change the speed of it using this. However, if you want to sync it, you have to press this button, and this section here will let you sync it to an exact note length. For example, this means it will rise over the course of 1 bar. This will be half a bar, quarter note, and so forth. The top one, however, can be used to create dotted notes. For example, if I did this, you'd get a dotted 8th note. Actually, no, you wouldn't. You'd get a dotted quarter note. So that's creating a riser. One other thing to mention probably be the restart function. What this does is, if you have it enabled, the LFO will trigger every time you press the key and reset back. It will basically reset back to the beginning and play at the beginning of each keystroke like this. Whereas if you have it disabled, the LFO will be free and won't reset back to the beginning at the beginning of each keystroke. And so forth. In Silent, you have your LFOs down here, and let's assign it to this oscillator here. So, to modulate this, you first have to turn this up the more you turn this up, this works basically like the slider in the ES2. The higher it is, the higher pitch it'll modulate to. So if we just assign it to something quite extreme just for demonstration purposes, the rate is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically how fast the LFO is going to oscillate. The gain is how obvious, if you want to think about it like that, the LFO is. So the lower down it is, you won't really hear it, whereas if it's all the way up, you're going to get some really drastic modulation. And the offset is basically at what point on the wave it'll start modulating from. Kind of like if I was to open up Massive a sec. The offset basically does this, so it'll move the wave for you. So like that's right up. So that's going all the way up to there, whereas if I take this down, it won't go up quite so far in pitch. Why is that? That's why. Right, let's try that again. There we go, so that's going quite high in pitch. So if I now try bringing this down, it's going to not such a high pitch as it was when it was all the way up. And to demonstrate what I was saying about the gain, about it being quite a drastic modulation, if it's all the way up, you've got a lot of LFO, whereas if it's right down the bottom, you haven't really got as much modulation. Right, now let's have a quick look at Zeta. So for Zeta, your LFOs are here, and to get an LFO up, you go to the wave type that you want to use for your LFO. Let's just be simple and pick a sine wave. So here's our sine wave LFO. For our source is basically what we want to use to do something. I want to use my LFO to do something. What do I want my LFO to do? Well, we want to do something to whatever we're going to put in our destination box. So we're going to choose our oscillator. We're going to choose oscillator 1. And we're going to choose the pitch of oscillator 1. So basically modulating the pitch of oscillator 1 using LFO 1. And the range here is basically how much modulation there's going to be. So if we whack it all the way up, we're getting a lot of modulation. You can also change the curve to get different to basically change the sound of the modulation. And so forth. That's pretty much how most LFOs work. There are some slightly more advanced LFOs, such as the Performer LFO in Massive. But I shall get to that in another video for you guys. But yeah, that's been basically LFOs. If you've got any questions on this, do leave a comment or send me a message to my inbox on YouTube. And I'll catch you in my next video. Thanks, guys.